Okay, groovy. So now I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Obviously, just with housekeeping, some of us are dialing in from locations with quite low bandwidth. So we do ask that if you're not presenting today, just to turn your camera and microphones off, just to ensure that there's plenty of internet to go around. But of course, if you do have a question or something, feel free to pop your camera and microphone on at that stage, or simply just type in the chat if that makes you feel more comfortable. All right, sharing my screen right now. And here are some delightful slides for us to work through for today's meeting. So yeah, like I said, if you can believe it, getting close to the halfway point for August. I just want to pause and just ask anyone out there just to confirm that you can see the slides on your screen. You can see Kate L playing with some kids in our evacuation house. Yes?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, great. Thank you. Fantastic. Thought I'd lost you all for a second, but glad I have you all with me. So firstly, just want to extend a really warm welcome to everyone today, and just pay my respects to the country and the owners of that country, which we're all dialing in from today across the state. Just really want to acknowledge traditional owners, past, present, and emerging, and of course, extend my respects to any First Nations peoples that we have on the line today. It's fantastic to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. You will have seen the agenda attached to the calendar item, but we do have a bit to get through today. So with no further ado, I'll take us through the agenda quite quickly. I'll be going through some research results for you, just at a high level today. But good news is that everyone will have access to the full report and resources when we send around the meeting notes. So even if I'm just touching on them lightly today, you can dig into the detail at your leisure. We also have Tammy Hunter on the line from the Bureau of Meteorology. She brings a really interesting new perspective to her role as the Community Engagement Officer for Queensland at the BOM. So that's fantastic to have her here. We have some speakers from Indocs who'll be dialing in a little bit later today as well to talk to us about one of their products. I really just want to be clear that we're not endorsing Indocs specifically, but I think they have a really good product, and I know there are others on the market like it that councils might be interested in having a look at to support some resilience building in their community. So we'll welcome Andrew a little bit later. And I also just wanted to give you an update on some new grants, a new round of grants that Suncorp, our sponsors, are funding as well. So Lisa asked me just to let you know about what's going on in that space. And then whoever would like to share any fun or exciting news from their region, there will be opportunity at the end. So it's going to be a wild ride as per usual, but I will get us started with some statewide research results from our 2022 market research across the state. So this is just a really brief overview, as I mentioned, but basically we did qualitative and quantitative research this year because with regards to the quantitative element, we really wanted to just dive in with a little bit more detail on people's attitudes towards specific preparedness behaviours. But basically, we did some in-depth interviews and 4 focus groups to elicit just a little bit more detail this year. And we did focus on some specialty groups, I suppose you can say, including people who are new to Queensland, people who don't speak English as first language, people who identify as having low literacy, and those living with disability. And then we did our quantitative element, which is very similar to what we did in 2020, which is a number of phone interviews right across the state. And that was all stratified by region as well. So we purposely oversampled some of those smaller areas just to allow for a better statistical analysis. But we had some very clever minds looking at the methodology for how to best get data from across the state. And that was carried out in April and May this year. The report being handed over in June. So the results, I think, reflect the time of year that happened, which was after the significant flood events in southeast Queensland. So I think you can see some of that reflected in some of the data that we got back. But ultimately, a number of metrics are collected across that survey to build what we call our resilience index, which is ultimately a score out of 100, 100 being 100% resilient. And what we did see was there wasn't too much change between 2020 and 2022 in terms of the overall placement of resilience across the state. Again, Southeast Queensland has come in as least prepared. Which is, yeah, like I said, where they were sitting in 2020. So that's quite interesting. And I'd be curious to see when we do this research next, if recent events equal more preparedness in southeast Queensland. We also saw a drop in resources or mining and resources communities as well, which is interesting. But I will just dig into some of the metrics that we look at in which to build these indexes. So one of those being perceived disaster risk. So again, as I mentioned, probably not too surprising that in Queensland, more people now than in 2020 are seeing severe storm and flood as a key risk for them. So just so you know, that the storm is up. I had that written down because I really wanted to tell you. Oh, storm in 2020 was 6.59 and flood was 4.05. So you can see that they really have had a statistical bounce or tick up. And so that is out of 10 where you're rating your disaster risk, essentially. The other element that came out of the research, again, is quite consistent in that people who are most prepared are those who are living in coastal regions, males, people over 45, people with previous experience with disasters, empty nesters or high income householders. So again, nothing too surprising or groundbreaking when we look at those who are least prepared according to our metrics. Like I said, people in southeast Queensland, people aged between 18 and 29, and then again between 30 and 44. Those age groups came through quite clearly in the low end of the preparedness spectrum. People who identify as female, no previous experience with disasters, renters, low-income householders, and of course, people who live in those cold communities, people who live with disability, and newcomers to Queensland. So really the research is helping us double down on some of the assumptions that we've been making over the last 2 years and backing those up. So when we look more broadly at those key preparedness behaviours that we keep pushing prior to each disaster season, you can see, things are sitting reasonably the same as 2020, no real statistical or robust difference. So I'm seeing this as a little bit of a plateau, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing because these figures are still quite high, which is fantastic. But we really do want to keep seeing a positive trend as we continue our commitment to Get Ready Queensland and the work that you are all doing across the state in this place. So I'll have a look at some of those more specifically for you. This is obviously a comparison for emergency plan. And when we talk about emergency plan, that doesn't necessarily mean a plan written down, but at least a plan discussed within the household, or the feeling that people living within that household would know what to do for their specific situation. And when we talk about what does being prepared mean, people are telling us things like the building is secure, that like the roof is secured to the building correctly, or that it's up to code, or that they're tidying up their yards and cleaning out their gutters, that they have supplies for their kit ready to go, and that they have a meeting place away from the home. So that's how people view preparedness kind of at that higher level. And what we see when it comes specifically to a plan is that Queenslanders under 30, or those living alone, or those with a disability, or those who are new arrivals are least likely to have a plan. So if you're thinking about how to really push home those messages, have a look at the data and see some of those subgroups that are getting missed. And perhaps that's worthwhile having a think about how we're investing our money when we're sharing messages specifically to do with a household emergency plan. And similarly, with the kit, we really did ask about what is stopping people from putting their kit together. And what we've been hearing is that there's a bit of complacency in that it's a waste of time, or that if they have a kit put together, so a specific box full of things, that it's likely that they won't use it year after year, and therefore the products go off or the batteries go out of date. And so there is that kind of waste of money feeling. But what people are saying is that they still feel prepared and that they have the products around their home. So that might be in the bottom drawer in the kitchen, and then something in the bathroom cupboard, and then something in the laundry cupboard. And so they feel like they have all the things together around their house, but it's not necessarily in one place ready to go as we would imagine a kit to be. And then registering for alerts. So this isn't just council alerts. We talk about alerts from either local government or emergency services or the Bureau of Meteorology. And so this was actually, when we look at Queensland as a whole, at 57% saying that they have registered for alerts, that is a significant jump. I think it was 39% in 2020. So I'd actually be quite interested to dig into a little bit more detail about why that increase has been so significant and what exact alerts people are referring to when it comes when they say that they have registered. Some have talked about in the qualitative interviews a bit of alert fatigue, that they're getting so many that they don't know which ones to listen to, or that there's just a bit too much information, but maybe that's a good thing because it's keeping these alerts front of mind. But that just was some of the feedback that we got from the report, which, like I mentioned, you can dig into at your little heart's content. We also talk about building and contents insurance. And again, nothing groundbreaking here when we talk to community members about why they don't have these products. Affordability is really what it comes down to. Some elaborate in that they're concerned that premiums will go up, particularly in light of recent disaster events and just how regular disaster events appear to be occurring these days. And that particularly in regional areas of Queensland, there just aren't options when it comes to insurance companies willing to provide the type of coverage required. There may be only one supplier willing to insure, and therefore the cost is just unattainable for some householders. But what we did see across the board, which I thought was quite interesting, is most people don't equate building and contents insurance to severe weather preparedness. So it's not actually a measure that people think about when thinking about how to prepare their household for natural disasters. Instead, they think of contents and building insurance as just something you have when you have a mortgage or you build your house, or sometimes if it's a requirement as part of your loan. So that's interesting, and perhaps we need to think about a little bit more strongly how we push that insurance message out as a key aspect of getting prepared for flood, cyclone, bushfire, etc., depending on the local risk. And across the board, people's confidence in insurance is slightly down on 2020 as well. People who have insurance, not necessarily confident that it covers them for their specific disaster risks as well. So then they're the behaviours, and then we had a look at barriers and motivators for why people don't or do undertake those specific behaviours. And these, in terms of barriers, are the top 3 from across the state. When you look at your particular region, so if it's coastal or First Nations or resources, some have different top barriers or motivators. So it is worth having a look at the information that we provide for your particular region, because not all are the same. So this specifically is Queensland as a whole. It's probably, again, not surprising that the excuse of not being top of mind has decreased, and that's probably because disasters have been on the front page of most newspapers or in the first 5 minutes of news reports for some time now this year. So certainly it is something that people are thinking about. And yet still there is that perceived low risk. So again, the message of if you live in Queensland, you are at risk isn't necessarily cutting through. And when we asked about that, people really, a lot of people say, oh, but my house is built to code, so I'm fine, or I live at the top of a hill, so I couldn't be flooded, it's impossible. So yeah, people aren't necessarily seeing their household at risk, even if they see their community at risk. And a really interesting jump in that people think that they would have time to prepare if there was a disaster alert or warning issued, which I thought was interesting, just given COVID and you know, what we saw with toilet paper and panic buying. A lot of people realize they don't have time to get ready when everyone else is getting ready at the same time. But yeah, it seems to be that there's a little bit of a casual approach to preparedness still. So when asking them what would actually get them to participate in preparedness behaviours, these again were the top 3 in Queensland. Do have a look at your region specifically. But again, the top one is that there is an impending disaster on its way, and that is the highest motivator. Although that is down, that still comes out as number 1. So thinking that they would have enough time. People saying that they want more timely reminders on when to prepare. So more info about what they need to do or what they should pack, or even ready-made kits would incentivize them to actually undertake more preparedness behaviours. So basically what I'm hearing from that is people want it to be as easy and as no-brainer as possible, because lives are busy and lives are full. So more and more people are wanting it to be essentially handed to them as easily as possible. And like I said, information on how to prepare still is one of the top 3 reasons or motivators. And when it comes to reminders, people want it at the right time. So a lot of people say that they really do want to get prepared, but they just don't think about it because they have to pick up the kids and remember what to cook for dinner when the in-laws come over on Friday night. And yeah, I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted on that we all have lives. So people want to be reminded in a timely way to prepare. And we also asked about how they would like to get that information. And we have seen an increase in social media just across the board. Both the quantitative and qualitative research really strongly backs up the fact that people are using social media more and more to get their preparedness information and to learn how to undertake these types of behaviors. And we've seen a decrease in those more traditional mediums like television and radio. So this metric is out of 10, and we did have some under 5, which were receiving letter drops, attending events and billboards as a way to get preparedness information. So when we do our campaign this year, we're really going to target that digital space really, really strongly. And I'll be curious to see how that campaign goes. We are going to still be using television, but a little bit more strategic, and radio only for our preparedness adverts that go out when severe weather is predicted. So those short notice, now's your chance to get ready messages. So that is the really high level content that I wanted to take you through today. We are going to be putting a whole lot of information on the Council Hub for you. It's not quite there yet, but when we send out the notes, we'll make sure that you're reminded that all that content is there. So Harry's done a fantastic job breaking down the data into slides per region. There's going to be the full report for you to read and enjoy. Also some social media tiles. You may wish to do a bit of a social campaign around these research results. We're going to do the same thing here from a statewide level. And we've also provided some captions just to make it as easy as possible. So there's an image and there's text there for you guys to use. And we also have fact sheets, just one-pager overview for each of those different categories of regions there. So very much looking forward to getting those out to you all. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions that you have or move on with the agenda items. Does anyone have any questions? Fabulous. So I hope that you're all still there and I haven't just been talking to myself for all that time. Oh, good. There you are. So what I would love to do is hand over to Tammy. I believe she has some slides to share with us. So I'm going to give her control. Hi, Tammy. Feel free to take it away.
Thank you. I will share my screen now. See what happens. Let's have a look. Back. How's that? Can you see my screen now?
Sure can.
Because I can't see anybody. So thanks, Kate, for a great review of the research results. Really interesting, and I'm really keen to explore some of those results further. So thank you for that. So my name's Tammy Hunter. I'm a Wurundjeri woman from Melbourne. I work for the Bureau for the last couple of years, and I've just moved over to the community engagement team for East. And this presentation is about building the Bureau's community engagement capacity around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander engagement and how you might be able to do the same. So first off, I'd like to acknowledge the elders and the community on the land on which I am now, which is Butchulla country up on Fraser Coast. I'm in Hervey Bay, and I also want to acknowledge my elders past and present, Wurundjeri from Melbourne. The community engagement strategic priorities are around growing Australia's community capacity to be more resilient to the impacts of weather, water, climate space and oceans through data education and building those partnerships within a community focused. We want to deliver best practice in community, deeply understand community needs and deliver data and continuous multi-channel narratives. I work in the community engagement team, as I said, for East. So I cover Queensland. Laura is online today as well. She's our manager for East. So she covers New South Wales, ACT and Queensland. And we have teams set up all around the country. Know your weather, know your risk. That's one of the products that we have. So it's a knowledge centre, and it's an online knowledge centre to help you educate your community around all severe weather hazards. There'll be videos, blogs, graphics, diagrams, and everything that you can think of that will help you educate your community on severe weather hazards. We also have the Bureau's weather app. So we now have a push notification. So in your local area, you can teach local community how to upload their weather app and then get their push notifications for tropical cyclones, fire, weather, flooding, whatever it may be that might be in that area. So they're just a couple of products that we have. The community engagement priorities of the team that I work in are the Hawkesbury Nepean Valley, which is flood warnings, heat services, Australia fire danger, heatwave services, sorry, Australian fire danger ratings, common alert protocols, research and impact to Australian communities, space weather, and the one I'm here to talk to you today about is Indigenous Australians. So in partnership, we will collaborate with emergency management sectors, local liaison networks, interpretation services and Indigenous media. And what we aim to do is to support Indigenous Australians to access weather warnings and preparedness information, so we can really strengthen the community's resilience to the impacts of major weather incidents in remote and vulnerable communities. The Bureau has their Reconciliation Action Plan, and their vision is to reconciliation is an Australia that values and respects Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and their community connection to country. Reconciled Australia embraces traditional weather knowledge as a precious natural resource. And the reason I'm telling you this, because I did look around some of the local government areas to see if there was any reconciliation action plans, and most of you have them, but I thought I would like to touch on them today because it will build better community participation. So some of the tools that you can use for engagement are going out and meeting with the local traditional owners and the community. So knowing that there are local community and traditional owners are very different. That will help build and strengthen community engagement when it's needed. Acknowledgement of country, which Kate did today and I've also done. At meetings, workshops, conferences, it just helps to build that rapport and understanding and respect. Developing your own reconciliation action plan. It shows the seriousness of the organisation about building relationships between Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and non-Indigenous people for the benefits of all Australians. And developing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community guidelines, engagement guidelines. And that's more about how do you go and work with community, how do you start the relationship building. Some people are hesitant because they don't have the knowledge, and that's where I can help out if anybody needs assistance. And it's also about improving service delivery to ensure that the safety, resilience and sustainability, well-being and prosperity of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. With the Reconciliation Action Plan, I just wanted to touch, there's 4 different levels. There's the Reflect, which is a scoping capacity, an Innovate, which is embedding, a Stretch Wrap, which is business as usual, so we make sure it's in our everyday thinking, and the Elevate, which is a level of leadership. This brings me to some more engagement. So if you're going to do messaging to the local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, make sure another way of getting messages across is using local faces, local artists and local language, depending on where you are around Queensland. look at local projects as well. So you could use naming of rooms or areas. And then we also have in the Bureau our Indigenous weather knowledge calendars. So you can look up IWK through the Bureau, and we work with communities who want to share their knowledge with weather. And as you can see, this one on your screen is the Yirraganji calendar, which is up from Cairns to Port Douglas. And then we work with the traditional owners on the language and the seasons. And there's a lot more information. If you go to the website, you can click on the particular area that you're looking at, and then you can get a lot more information. And if you don't have one in your area, well, more than happy to work with your community to help you build a weather knowledge calendar. And at the moment on the Bureau's site, we have 17 calendars, and there's lots more in the pipeline we're building as we go along. So that's pretty much me, short and sweet. If you want to ever connect with us, we have all our social media online, and I'm sure Kate can share with you my details if you would like further information.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tammy. Gosh, I love the idea of those weather calendars. Very, very cool. And I think we should all be taking advantage of those that local knowledge and the history and the cultural knowledge that goes back many, many, many centuries. Does anyone have any questions for Tammy before we move on? Great. Everyone's very well behaved today. I'm into it. Round of grant funding that's not Get Ready. However, if you were in the first tranche of Get Ready, your money should be with you by now, by the way. This is from our mates over at Suncorp. So I am just going to, because it's not my project, I'm just going to read through what Suncorp sent to us so that I'm giving you the correct information. But basically, like I said, it's a new round of this funding, which opens on the 17th of August, and applications are open until the 28th of September. So these are disaster recovery grants of $25,000. So it is specific to rural and regional communities impacted by the flooding that occurred this year between February and April specifically. And it's for essentially Build Back Better projects aiming to reduce the impact of future disasters on infrastructure or community well-being. So it is open to not-for-profits and must be for a clear charitable and public benefit. So some of the aspects that they talk about is community infrastructure, building organizational capacity, strengthening health and well-being of communities, and for educational programs as well. And those projects that really have a focus on inclusivity will be favoured for sure. And there is one other caveat, and that is one application per organisation. Per round. So for this particular round, just one application for a single organisation. So just wanted to let you know that there is a little bit of funding available for those rural and regional communities impacted by flooding this year. And now I would love to just throw open the table. I do have a message from Sue Campbell up in Cairns just to share with everyone today. She couldn't be here, but she did just want to let everyone know that she has a free registration for the upcoming Disaster Resilience Conference in Adelaide. That's the Australian conference put on by AIDA. So her project partner is unable to go and the registration isn't refundable, so it's a giveaway. So what I will do is put Sue's contact details in the chat. So anyone interested in attending that event with Sue who can have a conversation with her directly about that. She's also going to be at the upcoming Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction here in Brisbane, doing a presentation on the Ignite stage. And she really is curious to liaise with anyone who is also attending that event or presenting, so that she can get together at some point and have a conversation with other council reps there. So I guess that's a good point to make. Is anyone attending those conferences? I'll definitely be in Adelaide. Who else will I be seeing down there later this month?
I'll be there. I'll be your dance partner, Kate.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I hope you like to boogie.
I do.
Good. Good news. Anyone else going to be down there? How about attending the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference in September? Anyone going to be there? Okie dokie.
I actually had a question, Kate, about that one.
Yeah, I'll
because
try
it's
that
obviously
too.
19th to the 22nd. Are there a lot of? I'm just wondering, are all 4 days planned for, or what are people thinking of doing as far as that's concerned? Because I didn't know it was important to be there for all 4, or whether with our busy work schedules, whether we're I suppose the agendas and things aren't out yet, but it'd be great to know what's happening there, because it looks like a great one and certainly the one everyone's talking about.
Yeah, well, what I might do is see if when we circulate the notes for this meeting, point people in the direction of a little bit more information on that one. I don't have a lot of information just on hand in my head, but yeah, certainly happy to share what QRA is up to in that space. Cool, because yeah, we have a few people working on that one. And then there is another project occurring, the University of Sydney project, to produce a toolkit and resources to support Queenslanders working with homeless people in disasters. And I know Sue Campbell is involved with that one as well. And if there are other councils that are curious to be a part of that, there's a workshop in Cairns in mid-October. So again, please reach out to Sue for the details. A lot of that's still to be confirmed, but sounds like a really interesting project to be a part of. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to share today? Anything interesting? Any new insights from across the state? Any fun projects coming up that you may want to inspire us with?
Just Brendan from Fraser Coast. Looking forward to seeing everybody next week for the Guardian conference up here.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. That's a good one.
Bring your Hawaiian shirts.
Sounds like a blast. Anyone else have some interesting insights to share? My phone is vibrating. Does that mean someone's chatting in the chat? Wine shirt. I think Carla might have heard you wrong. All right, everyone. Oh, I see Shane's just mentioned that QRA R&R staff will be attending the ADA conference event as well. And yeah, they're all looking forward to connecting in at that event. And did I cut someone off just then? I thought I heard a voice.
I was Dave Batt from Bundy. I just wonder whether a question on that indocs, that was all.
Oh, yes.
The information that's supplied by the community, as in very personal information, where would it be held? Is it through indocs, through our council database, or is it a third party?
It's actually an excellent question. Andrew's still here.
Yeah, hi, it's Andrew. I can answer the question. So the council will be able to view the information that they have provided to the residents and the ratepayers that are using the service, but the information that's put up by them is only viewable by them. So there's privacy requirements that we need to meet. So we've got thousands of these logbooks all around Australia and in fact overseas, and we can't see the private information, like if people put in insurance policies, wills, private information like that. It's not viewable by the council or by Indocs.
And the actual place where it's held, like third party wise, because I'm sure people will want to know where their information is being held.
Good question. Yeah, that's all held. We hold that in AWS servers here in Australia. It's based in Sydney.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you for your question, David. It's a really important one. And thank you for your response, Andrew. Okie dokie. Well, Get Ready Week coming up in October. So I actually think what we might do is have another session just before Get Ready Week, just so that I can let you all know what will be happening in a little bit more detail. Planning is afoot. But at this stage, we're looking at doing a co-launch on the 10th in Brisbane and in Rockhampton. And then a number of events throughout the week and a large Get Ready Brisbane Disaster Management Expo as well on Sunday the 16th. I have been seeing some fantastic and really interesting plan of activities come through for the funding submissions. And what I have been doing is filtering out the submissions to see all the councils who plan to work with schools, all the councils who plan to do advertising, all the councils that plan to focus on people living with disability. And so what I might do is try and just make some connections across the state with people who are trying to deliver similar things this year, and just see if councils would like to get together to have a chat about those specific themes that are emerging, and just identify if there's any space for collaboration or sharing, not reinventing the wheel if someone's already done a little bit of work in that area and is a little bit more advanced. So over the next few weeks, I will be reaching out on that front, and also to councils who have nominated QRA-led activities as well. So looking forward to continuing to work with you all. Thank you very, very much for your time today. And I'll be talking to you very soon.
Kate,
Yes.
there is a question from Maria. She's asking if the bushfire communication toolkit will be updated with the new AFDRS.
From Maria, Sophie has been asked, will the new bushfire? Oh, that's a really good one, Maria. The answer is yes. Have we done that? No. Will we? Absolutely. Yeah, that will be very important. In fact, let me make a note of that right now. Thank you. We are, of course, in bushfire season. Even if it is looking like it's going to be a quiet one this year, we need to make sure that all our information is up to date. So thank you very much. Now I can't find a pen. Harry, can you please make a note? Appreciate. All right, guys. Thank you extremely much. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and I'll be talking to you all soon.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.